Well, we're up in the Deer Society studio. We got Andy over up from Iowa, and we're gonna go over our mapping of Cedar Springs today. So to get things kicked off, Andy's gonna kind of break things down, show us what all these different color shapes and sizes are representing on the map, and start to implement a plan. We've done a few things already, hinge cutting, a little bit of food plot work, but not too much. And we're excited to just jump into the next phase of this project. So we'll get kicked off. Andy will just kind of walk through what we have going on here.
Yeah, this is when it gets exciting. You know, we've got all the plan in place for the entire property now, and we're basically looking at this map here, showing different areas. The red zones in this map are the hinge cutting that we've already accomplished. And really that's the framework of this farm, and where we want to head from there is trying to understand, okay, how do we implement the other aspects of the farm? Where do we place food? Where do we put ponds? Where do we put our tree stand locations, to try and understand how do we hunt this hinge cutting system that's in place now and kind of create an entire system out of the whole farm and get it really functioning well. Starting to look at some of these food plot areas in here and tree stand locations. You know, you can see by these two big areas of hinge cut, there's going to be a lot of movement back and forth on this farm between those areas, and so we definitely want to try and take advantage of a large grain area in the center to draw a lot of deer. There's smaller green food plots that are close as well to take advantage of that big back and forth movement. Most of these food plot locations have small ponds on them. Those ponds are in the 15-20 foot range. They're real small, so don't be intimidated that you've got to put in these big half-acre ponds or anything like that. They're real small. Just little kill pond locations, and whenever possible we're going to try and tuck them right into the timber, really get them in heavy cover, and that's what you see up here as well with the warm season grass that's all around these. That'll really help isolate those ponds and help the deer feel really secure as they approach them. It's a big factor. You don't want to put those ponds out in the wide open where they're just feeling like they're completely exposed to access them, you know.
As far as that warm season grass, how does that work with all the cedars in that top section up there?
So to me, that's very much up to you guys and what you want to try and accomplish. You could pull all those cedars and put that warm season grass in. That's something that this farm has. It's a really major aesthetic beauty, is those large cedars all over in that field. And I wouldn't want to remove very many of them at all. I'd want to leave most of them. Obviously in your food plot areas here, you're going to want to remove most of them. You can leave a few. But in the warm season grass area, I would get in there and just, you know, use a disc and just run around those cedars and just get all this planted into warm season grass, but leave as many of those cedars as you can. They're great cover, and you know, the deer do use them quite a bit in the wintertime. They'll use them in the summer to bed in when it's real hot. It's cooler in those cedars, and they will eat on them some in the wintertime. And so I would try and leave as many of them as you can. You may find that it's quite a bit more challenging to get that warm season grass planted, but once it's established, it'll be fine. One thing I'd like to talk about is, I would say that probably something like 50% of your deer are going to come off food plots that you harvest, and probably 50% off some of the internal stands that are hidden more in the timber. And so that's what you see here is, obviously we've got some of your more tight internal stands that you and I understand the value of, that tunnel of pain type of stand, where you really sneak in carefully and you wait till the deer are really on their feet in that pre-rut stage. And that's what these stands are for, those deep internal stands that you're not going to access very often, but when you do, you're going to have a high percentage of seeing some of the mature bucks on the property.
Yeah, we've walked it now for quite a while here, the last year and a half, and a lot of these stand placements that we talked about a bunch of them out in the field, but we've also kind of came up with some game plan too, and I see you're kind of starting to highlight some of the same hunting strategies that we were thinking about too, so that's cool.
Right, it serves several purposes. I mean, number one, obviously you're going to be able to hunt. The distance down to the end of this food plot is just a touch over 200 yards. So, you know, if you're doing some muzzleloader hunting and whatnot and harvesting does, it's fantastic for that. It's also a super low pressure spot, because you're going to be able to edge up this hill and get into that stand and then exit it. That'll be a box blind most likely. I don't think there's any trees in there that are really suitable for tree stands. And what I'm hoping over time, I believe we can, this road that leads down into this food plot here, I believe you can open this up, open a lot of these trees up, and you should be able to shoot this food plot as well. And that's the hope, is that from that one location you can shoot both of these food plots, which would just be dynamite. I mean, any deer that are in this entire hinge cut complex and move out into these fields are going to, you know, make themselves vulnerable.
What about wind direction and all this? You're just trying to push it back out to borders?
Right. I think what you'll find on this location, you should be able to maybe get away with south if things go well. This is stuff you've got to tweak in the long run a little bit because land features, I can try and predict on a flat Google Earth screen, that's one thing, and we've been there, we know those locations, but you're gonna have to try and understand, all right, on a straight south wind, does that wind come up along this ridge and swirl out into the plot? Or does it actually turn left a little bit because of the big gully that's off to the left? And getting those wind directions right for your hunting is a process that'll take a little bit of time. Yeah. You'll take your first hunting season of what you can keep track of. Hey, the wind is southwest today, and this location is hunting perfect on a southwest because it's blowing right up into the field or whatever.
And we're a dominant west.
Right,
out here all the time, so it's even
west.
if it's north and south, it's most likely going to be northwest or southwest.
Have some west content.
Unless there's a front moving in. If there's a front moving in, you get a barometer change or something. Every now and then you'll get that east flow, or that straight north or straight south. But I don't know. I want to see how the phase works too. I mean, you might be, if we're playing that 50-50 wind, we might find out that it's way better off playing kind of the marginal wind than it is playing the perfect wind.
Right, there's definitely going to be times with mature bucks, the old standby of give him 10% of your wind kind of thing. There'll be times when you're willing to give up a little bit of it, and really phase up and make sure you got everything just right, and maybe hopefully good morning thermals possibly helping you too, and get away with it, and kill the biggest buck out of there.
I think that northeast corner you should be paying a lot of attention to. That is a weak spot, and that's a spot that I think if you get that established this year, that'll take a lot of headache away from you, because then you can start taking them cedars you're pulling out now, start stacking them there for a
all through that
temporary wall,
that barrier.
We have a suspicion that that hinge cut there could be a pretty good spot once pressure comes. We want to kind of take advantage of that.
It should be a really, really good spot. It's kind of a twofold spot. It's a solid hunting location with your pond and everything, and a lot of these deer are coming out of this hinge cut. It's going to be really solid, but it also functions to heavily delay. This is one of your heaviest pressure areas from your neighbors.
All around that whole north and the east, kind of, but you got pressure from places that's not even close to this map. And I promise you, deer are going to be coming from them areas, and they come in here every year. All of a sudden, them deer show up like, I've never seen that buck before. He's nice, but he's not there all year long.
Right.
And I got a sneaking feeling they're coming from that east, and they're pushing up into there.
Yeah, I'm sure they're coming. The way this property functions is such a huge sanctuary, that they're coming from a lot of different places.
And quite a ways away.
Right,
too.
because they remember when they were a year and a half old. Hey, I found this spot. And it's safe. Nobody shot at me. It's thick. And look at what it is now with the hinge cutting. It's so thick.
Now when they get in there, they'll be all. Right. They'll probably hold for a little bit.
And you guys are, very careful hunters and very, really, really going to keep the pressure down on the property. In a spot like that, normally in an open timber, you would walk in there and the deer would charge out of here, out into this open field, and be just gone.
Cross that open ag.
They might go 5 miles, just running over, and then they find a timber clear over there. Well, that stops when you apply hinge cutting to the equation, because they're like, I'm not running clear over there. I've got everything I need right here. They just understand really that I'm not leaving this stuff.
Because they know they got the protection.
Right, they have all the cover they want and all the food they want, and so they don't like leaving.
Just based on the property as a whole and the plan that we are going to put in place, what do you think for mature buck numbers, age? What do you think we can achieve with this plan?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of that depends on what you're willing to pass and let walk as far as mature bucks, getting them to that super upper age structure. I know what you want. I know you want 7, 8, 9-year-old bucks to harvest, and I don't suppose it matters what horns they're really carrying. You just want
age.
Yeah, beautiful old mature bucks that have reached their total prime, real prime.
6.5 to 8.5, I think, is kind of our range for us, depending upon the deer and the potential of the deer.
Right.
We would take like blind 10 at 6.5.
And I know you guys have what it takes to pass those deer and let them grow and whatnot. Obviously, you're going to lose some to neighbors. That's going to happen. You'll probably lose some to maybe get hit on the road, possibly, but. You definitely have the potential to grow, really, really nice mature whitetails on this farm, and they're going to understand that they have everything they need here. That's what you're doing, is layering in every possible need that they could have so that they don't have a reason or a want to leave. And in general, mature bucks, as they get older, their range generally shrinks and shrinks. And so how many mature bucks can you hold on a farm like this and expect to be able to kill, year on year? I would say definitely you could probably harvest one super upper age structure buck like you're talking a year if things go well.
And we saw a lot of does come into the property once we did all this work too, and with all the pressure, pushing everything in. We're thinking about hitting them pretty good this year, taking out, we can shoot 5, I think, with landowner tags and doe tags. Is that a number that you think would be okay, or?
It's interesting because it's a fine line to me. You're really stacking on your population at this point. You're stacking deer onto this, and as deer are born into this system and understand how all this hinge cutting and everything and the food and the water that they have, they're going to really hold on to that and want to live there. And so I wouldn't want to harvest a ton of does at this stage, because all those does are just cranking out fawns, stacking population onto the property right now. A lot of people, oh, I shot a big old swamp donkey, a big old long-nosed doe, she's really old, and don't focus on those old does. Those are the smart old girls that know how to navigate drought and tough conditions, and they're good at raising babies. They understand what they've got to do to raise fawns effectively. Take a spectrum of does, some younger does, some medium-aged does, some older does.
So do you think this is designed well to just kind of connect into Oak Roost?
Yeah, I would love to see, as you get closer to being ready to work on Oak Roost, obviously logging is your first step. You've got a lot of big mature trees over there that can be logged, and then going through and hinge cutting it, these two farms will just mesh immediately. They understand that. There'll be a lot of deer crossing that road, and obviously the mature bucks will do it in the dark.
Well, that all sounds pretty good. We got a lot of work cut out for us.
Yeah, don't be intimidated about it. You'll take it at the pace that works for you guys, and get done what you can. And
we don't want it to end though, because then the fun's over.
Right, that's exactly right. Once the farm is fully mature in 4 or 5 years, and it's all functioning perfectly, well, then there's not that much to do. And I see that happen a lot. And guys will sell their farm and they get another one so they can do it again. It's the process of improving is what's addictive. What's really, really rewarding. When you can just scheme it in your mind about what can I do to help and what can I do to improve it.
I think at our pace, we probably got a good 10 years with both sides.
Well, it's a really, really neat process and very beautiful farm, really special farm with all the cedars. That's really what's going to really separate this farm and makes it a really neat location.